What is up, everybody? This is Recap Rewind. I'm JLAG.
And I'm NB.
And this episode is recapping and reviewing Riverdale Season 4, Episode 19. It's the season finale of Season 4, and it's called Chapter 76, Killing Mr. Honeybeach.
And don't forget, guys, stick around for the ending of the podcast because we are going to go through our recap roundups and your recap roundups and your Twitter comments. And there was so much to be said from last night's finale, so be sure to stick around for that because we have a lot to spill.
And we did have a contest that we had going for the entire season for a chance to win a $50 Amazon gift card and a pop socket. If you did enter, we drew a name, and just check out our Instagram story for the winner because we got to contact you to get that to you.
Yeah.
As always, to our continuing listeners and our brand new ones, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into the episode, y'all.
Very special episode, as you can see. I mean, if you're hearing it, we're on screen right now.
We're on screen right now.
So head to our YouTube to actually see our physical bodies and faces.
Yeah, we figured we would do a live Zoom chat in this time of quarantine. It's very on brand for us, I think.
Exactly. It was meant to be, worked out perfectly. And it's the finale, you know, and I think it's going to be a good episode to talk about because I was very, very impressed with this episode. The production quality was super high on it. Shout out to Match and Amick. What did you think of the episode?
Loved it. To your point, I think it was the best way to go out, especially in this, considering the fact that they didn't get to do their whole season finale. I think there's 3 episodes that they were going to finish up before the end of the season, but this was a great stopping point for them. Yeah. Yes, such a fantastic episode. I tweeted after I watched it last night because I just couldn't, but it was just so good. I feel like this is the penultimate Riverdale experience. Mitch and Amick, to your point, shout out to her. She really slayed it. I think she did such a good job. So proud of her and the team that developed this script and the visuals and the style and the transitions.
And they had a mommy strut.
Oh, my God.
She had to put that in there. You know, she was like, if I'm directing this episode, I better have a mommy strut. It's gonna have it.
We need a mom moment.
I just want to really quickly mention that Roberto, he did an interview right after the episode, and he did mention that they actually were done filming prom. They were basically 90% done with the prom episode, but he's like, we were missing crucial BUGHEAD and VARCHIE scenes. So he's like, how can we go about it with still airing this episode? But then they were like, you know what? Fuck it. It's not going to work. It feels it doesn't feel complete. Yeah. So he was like, forget it. We'll end off on 19. It's basically a cliffhanger. We'll come back next season. We'll do the first episodes of their graduation and prom and all of that. And hopefully that gives them more time to really write the sickest graduation prom experience for us. And I'm excited for that, you know?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that no matter what happened over this whole situation, giving them more time to refine the script or rejig some things. I do love the fact that you got the time. Take the damn time to make the perfect fucking video or the perfect show. But ending off on this note was fantastic. It just really brought back a lot of Riverdale moments to me, and it just made me remember how much I love this show and what it can be. And I think that, you know, we've said it so many times over the years that we've been doing this podcast that they have these spiking moments where they're just they're doing it. They're doing it well. The writing's literally perfect. Everything was so well done.
I think they win at those one-off episodes. I think that's where their strength is. And this was definitely one of those episodes where it was a one-off. We even talked about it last week. I think you mentioned it, how you were like, what if it's Jughead's story? They're not really killing him, it's part of his story. Yeah. And it's such a fun way to have those scenes with Veronica freaking out at the crew, being like, what the hell's wrong with you guys? And having those moments that we would never really see. They really, their strength is in those episodes, and really, really fun to watch. And they did an amazing job with this week, and I'm glad it was a finale. So
yeah. Just a great way to end it all. And just, the scenes that we got were it felt like a finale. There were some moments that were very finale-esque. Anyway, let's get into it.
Quickly, having said that, Skeet and Marisol said that they're going to come back next year for a legit finale, because this can't be their end off, you know what I mean? So
it was kind of cool. But that's the thing. That being said, the parents got some airtime this episode.
They
which I was really happy about. Anyway, let's get into the episode. We'll talk about it. We'll break it down just like we normally do. We start off with Jughead narrating, of course, as usual. And he's in the FBI office with Betty and Charles. And he's doing like a side-by-side of the real murder of Jason and then the fake one that they just found or that was just given to them. And they're just talking about how these tapes were found and what happens. Where's the correlation? How does the guy know that this tape existed? Because it was the questions that we asked too. We thought that these things were destroyed, and somehow these guys are getting their hands on these actual old murder tapes, which is kind of crazy. So then the next thing that we see is Betty with Principal Honey in his office, and she delivers her yearbook. As we know, she just found out like last week that she was the yearbook like lead. So she's like, okay, I just put it all together. Here's a yearbook. And he's like, it's not happening anymore. It's too late. You brought it to me too late. I was supposed to review it.
I literally spent nights on this motherfucking piece of shit and you're not going to let me submit it? Like,
yeah, she's fucking cheesed at this point in time. And she's like, forget it. She's just like, whatever. I'm over this guy. He's such a douchebag. And in the meantime, Jughead gets a phone call from the University of Iowa. And basically they're saying that he has an offer to be a part of the school. He just needs to put together a brand new story. So once again,
really, really quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
I could be wrong about this, but it was really cool how he was like, the University of Iowa is known for their writing program. And I don't know if you remember, but in Girls, Lena Dunham, I think, leaves New York to go to Iowa to like do their writing program, because I think again like their writing program is apparently like super lit. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. I could have the wrong university, but I'm pretty sure it was the same. So I was like, oh, like I guess they're like basing it in like truth too. Like maybe the writing program is pretty sick. Anyways, sorry.
No, that's pretty cool. I mean, I love the fact that they do that kind of stuff. Like everybody's going to like Carnegie Mellon. Like there are linkages.
Like based in reality a little bit too, which is cool.
So he needs to put together this story, and we get a scene of them all sitting in the lounge. And guys, this is what I want Riverdale to be all the time, every day.
The lounge.
The lounge. This scene was perfection to me. I was like, oh, so this is how you manage an entire cast of 7 people. Like, this is exactly how you do it.
You know what?
Everybody circle and just talk to each other and say funny things.
When you see them together, they are electric on screen. Like, all of them together. You see their chemistry. Like, you really are missing out when we don't get these scenes, because you can really see how good they are off screen too. And it's just magic. It's like magic on screen.
I loved it. So anyway, they're just updating each other. And it comes up that basically everybody's kicked out of prom. Like Betty can't go because she
it was so funny. They're like, so who can go?
Yeah. And it was actually one of my favorite moments because they realized that the only 2 people that can go who haven't currently been kicked off are Jughead and Archie. And Archie even says, like, you want to go to prom with me, bro? Like, it was such a good moment.
They point at each other, like, before everyone realizes. He's like, you gonna go with me? Because like only they could go. It was the cutest
thing, and it felt very KJ Appa and Cole Sprouse in that moment. And like that's what I mean. Like these guys are kids and they're playing, teenagers. So like why not have those moments where you can laugh and joke with your friends? So anyway, that cute little scene happened, and then Betty just kind of goes into like dark mode, and she's like, well, one thing that we can do is kill Mr. Honey. And then like
it's like crickets. It's like
everybody's like scream. And then she says, or we can scare him enough to leave town. And then they start like breaking down a concept, and it was really cool because this entire episode was a split between reality and this fantasized imagery of what they could do to Mr. Honey. So it starts off with this kind of concept of them walking into the school before he leaves late one night, and they're not wearing masks, and then like it's like stop, pause, he's gonna know that it's us, so we have to wear something else. So then they're wearing the bunny masks and they're wearing different outfits, so like it's like you're watching a heist movie or something kind of has that energy. So much fun to watch, and everybody's in on it. So it's got like Cheryl, this, and this. Reggie's like, I'm gonna do it because my car got all fucked up during Halloween. It was all his fault.
Yeah.
And Veronica even says like, I got a cabin in Fox Forest, like my parents' cabin where they killed Minetta. Like that's where that's kind of where she was imagining it to be. And Cheryl even said, she's like, we can torture him by maple boarding him just like I maple boarded my mom.
Yeah, man, maple boarding.
I was like, that's so much.
I feel like you would enjoy that more than anything.
It sounds very extreme.
Maple syrup.
And Betty is literally having like a fantasy. She's smiling from ear to ear. She's like, this is the best thing I've ever heard in my life. Yeah. And then Reggie like just takes everybody back down to normal life. And he's like, or we can just like pull off a really, really, really good senior prank and just like leave it at that. So it shows Honey in his office. And obviously Reggie is now set up this prank. He sits in his chair and all you hear is like, crank. And like, he can't get up now. Like he's stuck.
Yeah.
And then
goes to like get his phone.
Then he goes to get his phone because it was ringing, and then it's like stuck to his hand. And then it just like he calls in the secretary. The secretary basically has to wheel him out, or the fireman wheels him out, and it just shows him getting rolled out. And like Betty's like ha ha ha, like whatever. Everybody's just happy that he got this prank in.
It would have been really smart, BT Dubs, if like they put like a porn film like on his desk and he went to grab that first and it got stuck in his hand like American Pie style. Yeah. And then like he goes to grab a tissue and then that one's stuck in his head. It looks like he was like jerking off to that porn.
You like really went in on that. I'm like, how many pranks?
That's what I thought was gonna happen. I was like, oh, they're copying American Pie. Like this is what's gonna happen. And then he just like grabs the phone instead. So
and that was it. But anyway, so they see him getting rolled out in his chair. So that's real life. That's actually what's happening. Yeah. So then it cuts to the next morning in Betty's room, and Jughead is like writing a story because he gets inspired by what fantasy basically she was coming up with earlier. And he says, I'm going to do a story about killing Mr. Honey. I'm like, he's like, this is amazing. Yeah. So she starts reading it. And as she's reading it, it becomes real. So then it turns into kind of the real cabin dream fantasy of the story. So then as he's reading it, it shows them kidnapping Mr. Honey and then keeping him in the cabin. He's tied to a chair, and it's really cute dialogue. I don't want to go into it in too much detail because it's like all not real. But basically, Reggie is getting kind of frustrated with Honey because Honey keeps kind of egging him on. He ends up taking his mask off. Honey basically calls him out, and then he punches him. And then it just keeps cutting back to different scenes of different characters doing different things. At one point in time, Cheryl is guarding Mr. Honey by herself. She has like a sassy moment with him to be like, go fuck yourself. We're going to do whatever we want. If you don't, post a video saying that we're allowed to go to prom, then you're going to stay in that chair and die. So it was just like this cute little moment that was written. So this is still Jughead's story. Then in the real world, it cuts to the FBI with Charles and Betty, and another tape emerges. So this is like, these tapes are like starting to come out of the woodwork. And this one now is of Midge getting killed at the play. And now Charles has them kind of side by side with each other. And he's like, well, this bitch is not like joking around. Like he's actually recreating all the murders that have happened in this town, but they still don't know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Then it cuts back into another cabin dream moment, and it's the kids going into the cabin and realizing that he is laying on the floor in the chair, like kind of like lifeless, not moving. Veronica checks his pulse and he's dead. So now that's like the story plot line currently. And then it cuts back to the real world, and the kids are sitting in the lounge and they're all laughing at Honey and the fact that he was stuck in his chair and how stupid he looked and whatever. But then Honey calls everybody, or he goes
on the speakerphone,
on the speaker mic, and he goes, whoever doesn't come, or if the person who didn't do this doesn't come forward, then everybody is not allowed to.
Which was like, I was like, guys, you guys are so dumb. You should have done this like the night of prom so that like he can't stop you from going to prom. Like he's obviously going to come back the next day and stop prom.
It's Reggie, man. Like, I don't know why anybody is listening to Reggie do anything.
Cheryl's like, why did you guys do this? I'm like, why did you agree to it? Like, you're dumb too. Like,
but then you do find out that he kind of acted alone. He acted with Archie and Kevin, but outside of them, like, it was just, they were just like nodding and being like, okay, Reggie, do whatever you want to do. Yeah. But, so Cheryl's cheese because now she wanted to crash the prom, and now there's like no prom to even exist. But then Betty says, why don't we do a little bit of research and see if we can get any dirt on him, and then we can like exploit that and then run him out of town for that.
Blackmail.
So I was like, you guys should have done that from the get-go. Exactly. Like, girl, get it together.
Just listen to Betty from the beginning.
From day one, exactly. So then again, I'm going to call it cabin dreams, but everybody's just talking about going to college and they're all freaking out because they're like, what are we going to do if we tell people that he's been dead? Like, we're never going to go to the colleges that we want to go to. Reggie, again, has a really cute moment. I know that it's written by Jughead, but it's just, he's like, because everybody's like, I'm going to this place. I'm going to Barnard. I'm going to all these places. And then he's like, I'm going to Riverdale Community College. Maybe. Like, he doesn't even know if he can make it to community college. Yeah. Which I thought was really cute. And that's what I mean. They inserted all these perfectly comedic moments that if you didn't notice them, you didn't notice them. But if you did, you were like laughing. And I thought it was extremely enjoyable. So back in the real world, the kids now are like, okay, what are we going to do about this prom situation? And this is the moment that we get everybody. We see everybody going to their parents being like, Daddy, Mommy, like,
I need help.
Like, I want that prom life, please.
I love this. And you know why? Because it was so real. That's what you would do as a high school student. You'd be like, Mom, Dad, like, they're fucking me over. Like, you have to help me out. And like, after all these seasons where we've been asking for that, we're like, where are the parents? Where are the parents? Like, they're only here for like killing their kids or like getting involved in their kids' drama. Finally, they're like clutch and they come through, you know?
It's so true. So there's this moment that we get, which I thought was freaking epic. And you just said it offline before we even started, or maybe you just said it on, but like the fact that we got this mommy moment of them.
And Hermione's finally back, guys. Like thank God they brought her back for this moment.
This one fucking time she was actually there. So they all kind of just roll up on Mr. Honey, and this is real life, which I still live for somehow. The music was perfect, and they basically said reinstate prom or else like whatever, we're just gonna come for you. And Honey still says F no, and then everybody just comes for him one by one. Like Alice for one is like ready to like go serpent queen on him and like kick his ass. But then
it was funny because like Mary was like, I can do this because I'm the best lawyer
she's
ever.
Like, legal lawyer.
And then Alice was like, well, I'm part of the register and nah. And then Hiram's like, well, I'm the mayor, so like I can do anything I fucking want to do in this town, basically. And then even Honey was like, he looks over to FP and Daddy, what's his name?
Yeah,
Kevin's dad. FP, he's like, what are you guys here for? Like, you're gonna say your thing too? And they're like, no, we're just here for muscle.
We're just the muscle. Yeah.
Like, it's so good.
They involved every single person. Yeah. I'm like, if the parents collectively cannot shut this shit down, like these guys are like hopeless. Yeah. It's not gonna happen.
And even Nana was there. Like, what a cutie.
And Cheryl like rolls her in. She's like, because I'm student president, I'm gonna go in with you guys to go to the meeting. It was so good.
Yeah, it was so good.
Like that's what I mean. These moments, like, where have they been all this time?
I know.
It's just, and it's funny, like, just really quickly, it's funny because when I was reading all the tweets, a lot of the Archie comic lovers were saying this feels like a comic episode. I
was just gonna say, it feels like the comic. It felt so true to the for sure.
And I'm like, you ask yourself, why can't they just keep that energy going the entire time? Like, they have the ability 100%. These characters are perfectly built for comics. Why not go that way? Anyway, so then it cuts to the cabin dreams again. And again, Reggie gets another comedic moment where he's digging the grave and he's like, how deep does a grave have to be? And Jughead says, deep. It's Riverdale. And I was like, that's a cute little line too. I just love the writing in this episode. Deep. So then deep, just go deep. And then it cuts back to school and Cheryl just kind of walks into the room with Betty and where Betty and Jughead are just like talking. And she says, we have some news, but we're going to celebrate. So then it cuts to a scene where she's at Pop's Diner and everybody. That
was so random. She's like, come with me. We can't celebrate here. Like, just shoot them a text. Like, it's such a random moment in the show.
So so the next scene is her basically standing on a table celebrating with everybody because Mom has been reinstated.
Also, where was Tony?
Okay, really good point.
Morgan, where were you at though? Where?
Shout out to one of our listeners because I did not even realize Atlanta Skopjak said, but where's Tony? Yeah. Seriously, she wasn't even in the background walking by or something. And I was mention it. Yeah, but yeah.
Like she's been by Cheryl's side this entire time, like probably even wiping her ass. Like they've been so close this entire season. You're telling me in their latest moment she's nowhere to be found?
Like, nowhere to be found. And to answer your question, the one thing that I will say that I likely think is the case is Vanessa Morgan got married very recently, and I feel like she might have been on her honeymoon. In that gap of time. They were probably like, you don't need to be there, because 100% there's no reason why she wouldn't have been there. Like, fucking Kevin was sitting in the line, like everybody was there except for her. Are you
allowed to do that? Like, if you sign on to a show, like, you have to contractually like be there for the shoots. Like, you can't just be like, I'm dipping for 2 weeks and not gonna be in an episode. But I guess because she's like a third tier character, like, it's not really like mandatory.
Exactly. Like, she probably wouldn't have had a line anyway. She probably would have had like maybe one kiss moment with CHONI. And they were just like,
and maybe like they went over budget. Like, maybe they couldn't afford to have like because literally like every single person was in that episode except for Pops. Was he even in that episode? Maybe
I think even Pops made it, and not Tony, which is kind of tight.
That is so bad.
That's pretty tight that they couldn't even like get her in there. But yeah, I don't know what happened, but I think that's my theory. That's the reason why it happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really, really cute moment. All the parents got a moment to be like, we're really proud of our next generation, and it just felt like a very wholesome Riverdale moment.
I loved it.
Don't get often where like the entire cast is in one space. You know, obviously
really
Fred Andrews was
in a happy thing, you know?
Yeah. Exactly. Everybody was celebrating. They were all happy that everything happened. And yeah, they said, to generations united, together we have proven victorious. And it just kind of gave me shivers down my spine, because I was like, this is such a great shivers down my spine sounds like a very negative thing. I meant chills.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, it was just cute to see.
It was really cute to see, again, like, what a beautiful moment to have in an episode that wasn't meant to be the finale, but it felt so much like it was like them saying goodbye and being like, now you guys like be free, like move forward. You know, and I know they didn't shoot it like that, but it kind of did feel like that. Sure. I was on Twitter and I think I saw someone being like, dude, like Hiram was being up there being like, I support you all and I love you. I'm like, you tried to kill like half these people and like blackmail one and like put one in prison. What are you talking about?
Like, you don't speak. You're not allowed to speak right now.
Like, let your wife talk for you right now because you're evil.
So yeah, he does say something like that. He's like, I'm just proud of my kids, even though we don't get along.
Like, I always have your good intentions and I always will protect. I'm like, no, you didn't though.
And even FB in the corner, he was like, Jughead's gonna be the first person to go to university. Like, he's just so happy. Anyway, whatever. Moving on, but it was just a very sweet moment.
Yeah.
Cutting back to Jughead writing a story, and now we're again back in the dream sequence, and everybody's sitting in the lounge, and Reggie's like glitching out in this dream sequence. He's like, I feel so guilty. This murder. And then Kevin comes in because he wasn't a part of the murder, and he's like, yo, somebody found his glasses in the woods, and they're thinking that it's foul play. And so this is back. So now cutting back to the real world, back at school, another tape comes in, and Jughead and Betty get called into Honey's office.
Sorry, really quickly, were they wearing the same clothes in both scenes or different clothes? I can't remember.
I'd have to go back and check. I'm not really sure how continuous they were.
Because it was very, very subtle when they showed like the alternate universe and like the present day. It was very subtle, so like you would get confused at some points. But now that I'm trying to think of it, I'm like, were they wearing the same clothes? I can't remember. But yeah, if you guys remember, let us know in the comments, because really,
that's an interesting take. But basically, another tape is found. Now Charles is there in the office with Honey, and it shows somebody walking through the halls of the school.
He's
and
such
like just
an idiot, this guy.
Halls. But like already, I don't know about you, but right away I was like, this is shaky camera footage. This is obviously like a fake person. So they're watching it, and even Betty's just like sitting there like nodding. She's like, cool, like whatever you say, we're gonna take this. Because what Honey basically says at the end of this is, because there's somebody that went into the school and did all this like creepy investigative stuff and sent out this tape, we're gonna have no choice but to cancel the prom. And so obviously Betty like put it all together, and she's like, fuck this guy, he only just wants to cancel prom. That's his whole vendetta this whole time. And Betty's like, I'm just going to review the tape while you finish writing your story. So then it cuts back to the story that Jughead is writing, and it shows Reggie, and it's just a narration of like Reggie, like R.I.P. Like they didn't show his death scene or anything. It just shows his locker, like a slow zoom into his locker, and it's just like R.I.P. He died. And that's not what happens. That happens a little bit later. What happens in this scene is they're in the locker room and Reggie's is still losing his mind.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a little bit far ahead.
I feel like I feel like there was a lot of attention on him this episode, and like he was freaking out, like, and I didn't expect that from him. Like, I guess it makes sense because like he's never killed anyone before, but like also like he was just like over the top, like extra, like.
But also, like, it's his like he's also a written character in Jughead's story.
True. Right? Yeah.
So that's the way I kind of took it too. Like he's saying things that he probably normally wouldn't.
Yeah.
So in this moment, it was actually funny because Reggie's like losing it. He's starting to talk to the other people. He's like, you know, they found his glasses, and you know what? They can't find his body because. And then before he can say anything else, Archie like literally lunges across the fucking locker room and shuts him down. He's like, "Yo, man, don't say anything. What are you gonna do?" Like he just goes off on him. And I'm like, Archie, that's probably more bait.
More obvious.
Fucking telling him to shut up about a murder.
He could have just been like, yo, are you high or something? Like, go, chill out. Like, this guy's, like, he did drugs. Like, don't listen to him.
Instead, Archie's literally like, fucking.
He's like, never say that ever again. We're like, wrong with you, obviously, you're part of this.
Exactly. So then Betty is reviewing this tape, obviously, while Jughead is writing the story. And she sees this, like, literally, like, it's 2 frames of somebody in the reflection of a window. Yeah. And as she, like, zooms in, like, CSI style, she realizes that it's Mr. Honey Beach.
Honey, you're dripping.
So she goes and slides it into his DMs, aka like in his office, and shows the evidence and says, "This is everywhere. You're the one that did this tape. Why did you even do it?" Jughead's like, "You're such a deranged principal."
Also, he spent like 4 hours recording it because like the video was like extra long too. I'm like, you clearly have no life.
You have no life.
Spend 4 hours of your life recording the school.
Like these are the great lengths that you have to go through. Like
to cancel prom.
Yeah. So they're all just trying to figure things out. Jughead says, "Don't mess with us in our town. Like, get the fuck out of here. I hope you have a good lawyer." But then Jughead asks some questions like, why is he doing this about prom? Like, was he bullied in high school? Yeah. Like what's the situation? So they are trying to like kind of dig into like what his situation is and why he's going so hard on them.
And I wanted that answer too. I was like, what is your thing? Like, do you not like want teenagers like dancing together? Like, what is it? Like, are you overly like religious? Like, can I get an answer here? Like, I just want to know.
Yeah, I agree. So then there's this, it's really, really cool because it's in the same, so to your point, having like them in the same outfits, there's this really cool tracking shot where they're following Jughead and Betty, and as the camera turns, it shows the narration of Jughead finishing the rest of his story, and then it pans back to Reggie's memorial locker, which I thought was cool. It was a really cool transition into the next scene. And so someone's just like going there and like crying and like putting something down there. So this is the dream sequence of Reggie being dead, and then Cheryl is like bawling her eyes out. She's like, "Bah!" She's like so sad. So they run into the music room. Everybody's trying to console her, and they're trying to say, for the most part, like, he deserved it. He was talking too much. Yeah. He knew too much. He kept saying things. He was losing his mind. Even Archie's saying, like, what the hell, man? Like, you need to chill out. And this is when we find out that his, like, brakes were cut, or, like, there was some sort of accident.
Someone did it. Yeah.
Exactly. And Veronica basically says, like, what the hell's wrong with you guys? I can't believe you guys are so dark right now, and like okay with the fact that we just killed one of our best friends. And I wrote down, of all people, even I know this is a story, I know this is fake, but I was like, of all people, why did Jughead write Veronica to be the one who's like holding on to her goodness?
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah,
you literally have a gangster father. She would be the first person to be like, okay, how are we going to bury the body? What are we going to do to get rid of it?
Or like she did it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Archie, I can imagine. But anyway, whatever. So it's a fake story. I can't even like judge it that hard. Yeah. But so then it cuts to Betty and Jughead talking. And then again, Kevin calls them into the office. And it turns out that Honey has to leave because not into the office. They see him like walking down the aisle or the hallway. He's carrying his box and he's leaving. He stops in front of the kids. And he basically says, like, I did all this to make your school better and safer. Like, everything that I did was to protect you guys. And he said, like, it's not my fault that you guys are all like psychotic. Like, what happens in the school is not normal. Yeah. And all the kids basically say, well, it's normal to us. This is our normal. So like, get used to it. And then we find out that Honey found a new job, and he's now going to be working as the headmaster at Stone fucking Wall Prep. So how the F did he get this job? Like, I don't even know how he got this job. While he can sue his ass for tampering evidence. Like, there's so many reasons why he can't be employed again.
Yeah, like, go to another town at least. Yeah,
that was probably the weakest point of the entire. I know, once again, we're talking about Riverdale, but the one weakest point about the story is the fact that he got this job while they're kicking him out for something that he did that was relatively illegal, like tampering with evidence.
Yeah.
Anyways, so he's leaving. And then
which guys, I really wasn't shocked at, because I think in the beginning of this season, we even thought that there might be a connection between him and the Stonewall School. We even said it, because I was like, okay, 2 new characters, they're kind of evil. Maybe there's a connection. So maybe there is a connection.
Which I still think there could be. Yeah. I think that's not out of the possibilities.
Yeah.
So then it cuts to a scene in the lounge, and everybody's like, oh, thank God that's over, like, whatever. And they're just shit talking him, saying how he was the worst person. And this is when Miss Bell, the secretary, like, gets her first and only scene, like, ever, of all time. She basically says, actually, guys, Mr. Honey was the best principal to ever come to Riverdale. He was the best person ever. He did all these great things.
Yeah, he wanted to make sure the GPA. He's like, nobody died when he was principal. Yeah. He's like, he got like these poor kids into school. Yeah. She's like, he was amazing. And now because of you guys, he's gone.
Wow. What did you think of that twist? And how it was delivered from the fucking
thing, and I want to get to this at the end. Here's the thing. They twisted this to make him look good, but let's not forget, lest we never forget that he was in the porn shop.
Yes.
Like, hello.
What's the tea on that?
The tea is missing. Nobody realized that tea.
Yeah, so, and that's the thing, like, and it's funny because we'll go through our roundups, but there were some people who really liked the fact that the way that it curved for Honey being a good guy at the very end of it all. But at the same time, like, you guys can't forget the fact that he's still a sketchbag.
And that's the thing, like, you know me, like, my whole thing on him was like, he's gonna be good. Remember, I kept saying it. So, like, obviously I wanted that to happen, but now it's too late. The guy was in the porn shop trying to watch, like, these weird films. Like, we already know he's creepy. So now it's like, you can't make him good.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. But the last thing that Miss Bell gives everybody is Jughead. She's like, here's a letter from Iowa. And then it shows a scene of Jughead opening the letter at home, and he finally reads it, and like close up zooms on him, and he's like, oh, and so he reads it, and he's like, I gotta change the story. So then it cuts back to the scene where they're in the cabin, and it's before they kill him, and so he doesn't kill off Honey in the brand new story, and instead it's everybody in the hospital, and everybody's just terrified of going to the hospital. And
well, it's interesting because he rewrites the moment where, like, instead of burying his body, they call 911. Like, Archie and Veronica call 911. So that is the turning point of that story, where instead of killing him off, he decides to save him. Right. And they all do freak out. They're like, "What the hell? Like, we're not gonna be able to go to school anymore. Right. Like, the cops are gonna get us." But in the end, like, obviously he's like, okay, but like, nobody's dead. Like, he's still alive, right?
Yeah, Archie kind of centers everybody back together, and it's like, you guys are talking about the fact that you would have rather him die, versus like going to school and shit. Yeah, and it isn't, like, honestly, it was an interesting perspective. It's something that I hadn't really thought about, to be completely honest, because I was just following what they were giving us. But it is true when you think about these characters turning so evil and so bad in the real world. You're just like, okay, maybe that's what you shouldn't be doing. Even when and I think it just like parallel to what they did in the real world, where he got pranked and they tried to kick him out and all this other stuff, and being him. And so it all kind of connected back when he finally wrote that story, and Betty's reading it in her room, and she's like, oh wow, you changed the ending of the story. Like, why did you change it? And he basically says, I don't want to talk about the darkness of people. Like, you know, like, we already get so much of that.
And he's like, he goes, I was focusing on that. He's like, I was getting excited and happy focusing on the pain. Exactly. And I was like, oh my God, I never thought of it like that. And for him to explain it, I was like, yeah, it's so true. Since the beginning, he's been focusing on that part of the town. Right. And so he didn't want that to be, he didn't want that to happen again in this story. And that was really big for him to like recognize that.
I really liked that line as well. And I think that it was a shout out to like all the VARCHIE shippers who get very violent toward other BARCHIE shippers, you know?
I just thought it had that connection, eh?
Yeah. So in that moment, they're talking. Jellybean comes in and she's like, "Hey, y'all," and she comes in with a brand new tape.
She's like, "Amazon package."
just got to deliver it. Just sign for it.
Like they even paid for Jellybean to be in this episode just for that.
I know. Tony wasn't even in it, and Jellybean came up the fucking stairs.
She's like the mail woman of their house.
Yeah. So she gets the tape and they play it, and it's the lodge cabin, the one that was in the story, and they're like, "Okay, let me get my keys." So they're on their way. They go over. The one thing that I didn't understand was, how did they get in? Veronica should have had the keys.
Also,
why wasn't Archie?
Choice of clothing is like very questionable. Like it's pouring rain outside. This girl's in like a mini skirt. I'm like, girl, your feet are gonna get wet. Aren't you cold?
Don't be wearing that shit though, girl. What's wrong with you? Yeah, I agree. But what are you gonna do? So they don't bring Veronica and Archie, which I thought was a poor move. Yeah,
you're right. Yeah.
But it just looks like, so they get there and it looks
money. They ran out of money.
Yeah, they ran out of money. They're just like, Jughead and Betty, stay in the seat. It's just raining. It's just the two of you. Yeah.
You can't even change clothes, Betty. You gotta wear your skirt.
Exactly. So they realize that someone's been sleeping there. There's like all this food everywhere, or whatever, and there's an old projector. And it's funny because I feel like there's moments that we have to remember now, because next season we're gonna forget everything. Yeah. But basically, one of the things that he said that was really interesting, Jughead notices that the projector, he's like, that looks exactly like the projector from the theater, the drive-in.
Yeah.
And it was like, who worked at the drive-in? Like, I started to think about those things, and I wasn't sure if there was a connection there. And then they see a VCR and a little TV, and then there's a tape inside the VCR. So they press down on the VCR, press play, and it shows a guy dressed as Mr. Honey. It says Mr. Honey on his shirt. He's wearing a hat, and there's a bunch of them. So it's like a fake Cheryl, fake Archie, fake Veronica, fake Reggie, and they're all stabbing this guy to death. And then they all turn to the camera, and then that's how the episode ends.
The season ends.
Season ends, yeah. But before we finish it off, did you feel like that was a real murder?
Okay, that's what I want to ask you, because I want you guys as the audience to reply to us too and say, like, do you guys think that they're actually killing these people,
right,
or is it like a staged like act?
Yes.
What do you think? I don't know. I really don't know what to think.
So I believed it all the way, literally up until this last tape, seeing this Mr. Honey tape, only because I don't know if it was just really bad acting and like the director was just like, yeah, just like fake stab him, but they were like this. They were like.
Well, it looked pretty fucked up to me. Like I was like, oh my god! But don't forget. I think like they can't fully show, because like it's still like a PG-13 show. Like sure. I don't think they can fully show like da da da. But like when they all crowd around him and like they circle around him, like he was so creepy. Obviously, I think for dramatic purposes, like I think they should be really killing people, because like it's just gonna feel that much more like intense when it all comes out. But I don't know. I don't know what to think. I don't know if people that are watching think that they're actually like, I don't know what to think. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see what it is. But that being said, I was going to say that when everybody turns to the camera, the one thing that we should keep an eye out is it's a minimum of 7 people in this sequence, like that are behind all.
So it's more than the Stonies, right?
Yeah, like it's more than the Stonies.
There's extra people.
Exactly, unless they're recruiting their entire classmate, all their classes or whatever, or I don't know what it is, but it just was an interesting moment to see. And these are always like the turning points, I think, for Riverdale, where it can be really good and they give you the shock value that you feel like you need. And if they don't follow through with like answering all the questions that we need answered, it could go downhill. So I think that hopefully this makes sense when they finally reveal it all. Like if it turns out that it was just like one Stony, we're like, okay, then who were those 5 actors murdering somebody? Like it has to be.
And I don't know what answer I want. Again, like with anything, like I don't know what I want. I guess the thing that makes the most sense is for it to be the Stonies, like they're getting revenge.
Yeah.
But also these tapes were happening long, like it was before Jughead even got to the school.
Yes. So who and why and what, like, why are they even still involved in all this situation? And also, you messaged this to me, but we should talk about it. They're doing a murder of something that he wrote.
Like literally 10 minutes ago. Like
10
literally,
minutes ago.
like it's still on his Microsoft Word. Like he hasn't even like sent it to anyone.
Exactly. So,
and you mentioned, you were like, he's still using the laptop that the Sony's got for him,
right?
Which is the dumbest thing ever. Like, why would he even keep that laptop?
Idiot.
So I think you're right. I think the only thing that could make sense is like they're either hacking his computer or like they're pulling it from the server. Like there's some, because otherwise, like, how are you gonna know what he just wrote?
Yeah, exactly. So there must be some sort of monitoring. They have to tie that back around the fact that this guy knows exactly what's happening in this moment, like, right now.
Minute by minute, hour by hour. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's something that's worth calling out. The one thing that we were saying, we were joking about the fact that this is going to become like Mr. Robot. It's all about like technology this season. Seems like it's going to be all about like hacking or like finding out stories and exposing people's secrets and all that kind of stuff. Data mining. But it's interesting because I wish that they had at least one of the characters from the core 4 be that techie person, but none of them are techie.
Yeah, well, like, it's because their tech is not really tech. Like even they use VHS tape. Like they want that vibe of like the old times, the 1960s, and so they've never really introduced tech in this way, right? Like where you can be hacked, or like I guess they did it with Veronica and like the sticky maple thing in season 1, or like her Instagram, like people made fun of her online, but that hasn't really come back into play since then. So I don't know. We'll see, I guess.
Yeah, let us know what you guys thought about that finale, because it was crazy and it was great. I love the way that it ended, even though that it left a lot of questions, maybe not some great questions, but I'm excited for the next season now. I'm excited for this next mystery. Yeah. Let's get into some questions from you guys, or just some comments that you guys made. One of them was from @CHONI5 on it, saying Cheryl really carries a show on her back. Amazing. Cheryl had a great episode. This episode.
Like, I wouldn't say Carrie, but I think she's an amazing character, and I would definitely miss her if she wasn't in it 100%. But I can't really say Carrie. Like,
she's a great part of the ensemble, if you look at it that way.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, Lana Skopjak said, but where's Tony? Asking the same question. Shout out to
action.
Vanessa Morgan. Where you at, girl? Let us know.
She on a honeymoon, getting sexual.
All right. So before we get into your recap roundups, let's do ours. Ready?
Yeah.
Recap roundups. Best moment.
What was your best moment?
My best moment, definitely the episode was like a very like standout, great, amazing. But my best moment, I think, has to be the Pops champagne pop-in celebration. It was so cute. Their whole spin on it being like a generational kind of passing of the torch thing, like seeing all the parents together, seeing Hermione finally like Mama is alive, thank God.
She's not, gone.
Like she's not fading into the wallpaper. But it was a really, really cute scene, and the fact that Cheryl was on the table, as if like she did everything.
I think definitely the best moment. It's hard for me to pick one specifically. Like you were saying, the whole episode was amazing. The music, the scenes that they gave us. I will maybe I'll focus in on like the lounge scenes. I know that's still general, but like the lounge scenes were just perfection. I wish we saw more of those interactions that we have, the very high school conversational shit. And, I'm so glad that we got to get it by the end of the season, and we're still going to get a few of them before they graduate, because we're not going to get those. We don't know what's going to happen when they finish graduation. Are they going to do the time jump? We still haven't really had any conversations around what's going to happen once they graduate school, or what season 5 holds for us. So
it's a very interesting thing that you just brought up. I do feel like season 4 was a good season, but there were some things that I missed. I think we could have definitely used a lot more student lounge scenes, a lot of 100%. More of them coming together and like having these really like iconic moments. I still feel like they did skip over those. I feel like we could have had way more, but
agreed. We'll take what we get.
Yeah.
WTF moment.
What was your WTF moment?
WTF moment, I think it's going to go to what you brought up, and the fact that Jughead, if he is still using the laptop that they got him, I'm like, boy, you are dumb as shit. Like, actually, you're so dumb. Like, these people tried to fucking kill you. Like, not even get you suspended. Not even, like, make fun of you. Not even prank you. They tried to murder you. and you are going to use that Mac that they got you.
It's so
like
true.
You're so dumb. Like I'm like, you're so dumb actually. Like
what have you done with your life this whole time? Like what have you learned?
Yeah.
My WTF moment is gonna go to Honey getting that job at Stonewall, because I feel like it kind of came out of nowhere. The fact that he's like, I'm gonna be the headmaster of Stonewall. I'm like, are we not done with that fucking storyline now? And it just feels like it's gonna come back around. And I didn't really want the next story to be connected to Stonewall, but it looks like it could be if we're gonna keep him going.
You know what? I think it would have been really cool if, like, along the season, we saw him like Honey having a connection to Stonewall, or like some sort of like alluding to that he is connected to this other storyline. Right. I think teasing that would have been really cool, and then like now seeing it like all connect, I would have been like, oh shit, like no wonder. But it kind of just feels like random now. It's like, they're still pulling from that storyline. Like I thought we were done with that. So
exactly, like
I don't know. Again,
if he had a little. Like if he had a little pin or something, okay, there's like something there, but he's the headmaster of the entire school suddenly. Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And also he was waiting on getting fired for him to move to the new position. Like, what? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
MVP.
Who's your MVP?
MVP, I agree with you. I think I'm gonna give it to, we always, we give them a hard time, the writers.
Yeah, for sure.
We give them a hard time. I got a shout out to the writers of the episode. Obviously, Machen, like the directing was beautiful this episode.
Killed it, slayed it.
Like
slayed it so
eerie and like, it was amazing. But definitely, I think the writing was like on point. Like I said before, I think their strength really lies in like these one episodes where there's a clear like beginning and an end, and they can fill in those gaps, and it just always works for them.
Like just echoing what you were saying, Machen Amick killed it as the director of this episode, and I just want to shout out to the entire cast. Like just a perfect episode to me. Like just really well done all around. Not something that I often say about the show, unfortunately. But like knowing that they have this ability and this capability is just, it's refreshing to get it at the end of the season. Yeah, for sure.
LVP,
I think it's the same as yours, and I'm gonna have to say Reggie. And I don't know, like I feel bad because like half of it was like a fake like scenario, but like he was just so like, Reggie, just get your shit together. Stop. Like that's how I kept seeing him.
And I get that's kind of like his role in this show. He's not quite an Archie, and he's not quite a Jughead. He's his own kind of badass but sensitive but stupid character. And he was just written in Jughead's story as like this extremely frustrating character to deal with. And you're just like, dude, get it together. Playing the doofball all the time is not always an exciting thing to watch. But at the same time, he delivered a lot of those hilarious lines, which I love.
For sure.
So I was definitely okay with it, even though he was my LVP. What was your best line?
You're like, also he was mine too.
But he was my LVP.
The best line.
Best line is gonna go to Betty. I think when they're in the student lounge, like in the beginning, and she's like, maybe, but I still think we should have killed him. Obviously, this girl's first choice is always like to murder someone.
She's like ready to kill everybody at all times. My best line is gonna go to the lounge when Archie says, "Want to go to prom with me?" And then Jughead says, "I'd be honored, but I'm not putting out." And then Kevin says, "Let the fan fiction begin." So it was like a 3-part joke, and I just loved it. It was just perfection. This, and that's what I'm saying. I wanted this for all the time in Riverdale. Going to our listener roundups, at Dazit Micah said, best moment, the parents coming together to defend their kids. WTF moment, that there were two different things going on. I couldn't keep up with it. MVP, all of the kids. LVP, Reggie. Best line, I'm the only one who never has gotten rid of a dead body. And that's from Reggie, which was true. Postmaster Radio says best moment, the revenge fantasy of killing Mr. Honey. Great directing from Machen. WTF moment, the final scene. MVP's Betty. LVP's Reggie. Best line is, that's the most high school thing you've ever said, Jughead to Betty. And also when they say, who's had experience with getting rid of a dead body, and everybody raises their hand. At Albert E10 says, best moment, everyone at Pops. WTF moment, the last scene. MVP Machen, seemed like she's been directing for years. LVP Jughead for not including Kevin in his story. And best line, the problem with having all the answers is it blinds us to the truth of what's right in front of your eyes. Yes, I do agree that they didn't include Kevin in the story, but Kevin became that gossip guy that he's always been kind of created to be in the show, and I don't know what else they would give him in that particular role.
That's true.
At Lana Skopchak says best moment, the parents helping the kids. WTF moment, Reggie being the only one who's never gotten rid of a body. MVP's the kids. LVP's Charles for acting like he's a real character.
Still
after all this time. And the best line is the only thing we can do is live our lives. And then she writes, sure, I mean 2 people just died, but that's still accurate. So that was great. And then finally, one from @Fanula saying, all I have is MVP Mr. Honey. Oh, and hashtag BARCHIE Endgame. So we got a BARCHIE fan, but also
BARCHIE's so strong.
MVP Mr. Honey, questionable. That is our final podcast, our final recap roundups of the season. Thank you guys all so much for listening this season. It's been quite a ride. I think that we've had our highs and lows, enjoyed like random murder mysteries, but also have kind of gone through.
Definitely better than season 3.
Definitely better than season 3.
Definitely better than season 3.
Super strong. I mean, I think that they've really kind of pulled it together for their final senior year. I think despite what's going on with quarantine and all that, they've really made a good show finale. And I am excited for the next season. I'm excited to see what happens in the next thing. I think it's just, if it continues on this path of just enjoyable, consumable content and not focusing so much on the murders and really having that dialogue heavy, fun stuff, then I think we'll be okay. I'm going to take this time to thank our patrons of the episode, our Rewinder squad, White, Nicole, Faith, our Lit Rewinders, Tina Ann, Serena, Soleil, Kate, and our Mommy Rewinders, Becca, Sarah, Tamala, and Grace.
If you would like to join our Patreon family, check us out at patreon.com/recap_rewind. If you join, you'll get access to all things Recap Rewind, exclusive content, and updates.
And also make sure you guys are checking us out on all of our socials, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and you can also find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iTunes. Like, subscribe, follow, review, and comment to stay engaged with us at Recap Rewind. Thank you guys for an amazing season.
Thank you guys so much. I can't believe we're done.
I can't believe it.
Wow, I'm going to miss everyone.
Missing everybody. Be in touch. We'll be on Twitter. We'll be on Instagram. So just keep in contact if you miss us. Have a great summer. And thank you. Stay safe. And thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.